Hi, this is Mamurjan Rahimov. We are in the second part of Lecture 19 on pricing. So when analyzing demand, cost and profit calculation is important. So customers are becoming less tolerant of price increases, forcing manufacturers to find ways to control costs. So companies must set prices that not only cover its costs, but also meet customers' expectations. So there are two approaches to that. Marginal analysis and break-even analysis. Let's look at marginal analysis first. So marginal analysis examines what happens to a firm's costs and revenues when production changes by 1 unit. Here we can assume that production equals sales. Let's say that whatever you produce, you have no problem selling. Speaking about costs, we have to refresh our memory about the different types of costs. I hope that you're familiar with fixed cost, average fixed cost, variable cost, and average variable cost. Example of fixed cost is rent. So whether you produce a lot of products or fewer products, you still have to pay monthly rent. Average fixed cost is for example, let's say that rent for your production facility is the only fixed cost. Let's assume then average fixed cost would be dividing the price of rent by the number of units that you produced that month. All right. So in reality, fixed costs include more than just rent. So you add all of them, and that becomes fixed cost and total fixed cost, and you divide it by the number of units that you produce during that period of time to arrive at average fixed cost. Now, variable cost. The best example for variable cost is electricity use. So, production today cannot produce without electricity. It's used at most or all stages of production. So the more you produce, the more electricity you use, right? So that's the variable cost. And assuming that electricity is the only variable cost that you have, in reality there's more. If you divide that by the number of units that you produce that month, that gives you average variable cost. Okay? Now, total cost is the sum of total variable cost and total fixed cost. Or it's the sum of average fixed cost and average variable cost times the quantity produced. So they both give the same result. Now, average total cost is the total cost divided by the number of units that you produce. Now, the term marginal is maybe a bit confusing because this is not everyday English. This is an economic term. Let's replace it with extra. The synonym for marginal in plain English is extra. So extra cost. That makes more sense. So the extra cost incurred by producing one more unit of a product. Same thing with marginal revenue. That's extra revenue. The change in total revenue or extra revenue resulting from the sale of an additional one more unit of product. All right? And the rule is any unit for which marginal revenue exceeds marginal cost adds to firm's profits. And any unit for which marginal cost exceeds marginal revenue subtracts from the profit. Okay, so the firm should produce at the point where marginal revenue equals marginal cost, because that is the most profitable level of production. So MR equal to MC is the profit maximizing level of production. However, marginal analysis is only a model. So marginal analysis offers little help in pricing new products. It's helpful for products which are well known, and there is a history of uh, you know of sales data that you can plot on a curve, you can put it on a table and run marginal revenue, marginal cost analysis. So take a look at how the costs are calculated. So at different ranges, so that the fixed cost, as you see, it stays the same with the amount of uh, units that are produced. They're 40. You see, that's average total fixed cost is this. Average fixed cost is this number divided by this number, right? So here is 40. Here you already produced 2 units, gives you 20. So please sit down and try to make sense of this table. So you have, and you see, we are putting the marginal cost between these steps because this is how much it costs. This is the extra cost of producing. For example, here total cost is 60 and here total cost is 70. So by deciding to produce one more unit, you're incurring $10 more for your cost. So that is why marginal cost is 10. Here, by going from 2 units to 3 units, you're incurring cost of $2, right? So this kind of analysis should be done for the products that you're producing. On a graph, it looks like this: uh, marginal cost, and the average total cost curves look approximately like in this graph. And this graph represents typical marginal revenue and average revenue relationships. Now let's use marginal analysis method for determining the most profitable price. All right, so let's go. So your pricing, let's go from lowest price to the, let's go from lowest price. We start increasing the price, okay? So we are increasing the price, and the profit is 42 at the price level of $33, where marginal revenue 18 equals marginal cost. Okay, so at $38, your profit is also 42, but you're selling fewer goods. All right, so between 33 and $38 is your price according to this analysis. So on the graph, this is a marginal cost curve, and this is marginal revenue curve. So this is where they intersect. Now another approach is break-even analysis, seen on the graph here. So break-even analysis is when your total revenue equals total cost, right? So they intercept here. So this is a break-even point. That's why we call it break-even analysis. So it gives you the knowledge of the number of units necessary to break even. All right. So at break even, you have paid for all your expenses. You're not making profit, but you're also not making losses. So here's the formula for break-even point analysis, fixed cost divided by per unit contribution to the fixed cost, or fixed cost divided by price minus variable cost. So to use break-even analysis effectively, a marketer should determine the break-even point for each of several alternative prices. So this makes it possible to compare the effects on total revenue, total cost, and break-even point for each price. So this approach assumes the quantity demanded is basically fixed, and the major task is to set prices to recover costs. So pricing decisions can be complex because of the number of factors to consider. There is considerable uncertainty about reactions to price among buyers, channel members, and competitors. So price is an important consideration in marketing planning, market analysis, and sales forecasting. Price is a major issue when assessing a brand's position relative to competing brands. Most factors that affect pricing decisions can be grouped into one of 8 categories. So here are the 8 categories. Let's look at them one by one. Organizational and marketing objectives affect pricing decisions. For example, for some companies, market share is more important than profit. So in that case, the price would be kept at low level purposefully in order to capture more market share. Prices should be consistent with the organization's goals, mission, and marketing objectives. So it's not a standalone decision. And pricing objectives have to be clear in business plan and marketing plan. Costs are another factor, of course, in determining the prices. You cannot lower the price below cost. Other marketing mix variables, as we have seen earlier, some examples of achieving greater sales, higher demand without reducing prices, but looking at better packaging, better promotion, product improvement, and channel member expectations also influence the pricing decisions. Customers' interpretation and response of pricing moves. So marketers must consider this question: how will our customers interpret our prices and respond to them? Just a few minutes ago, I was watching our parliamentaries talking to representatives of car manufacturing industry of Uzbekistan about their price increases, and that was a very hot debate. And generally, people in Uzbekistan, they're unhappy about price increases, constant price increases by our monopolist industry. So customers compare prices with internal or external reference prices. So internal reference price is a price developed in the buyer's mind through experience with the product, right? So they have an expectation or willingness to spend certain amount of money. External reference price is comparison price provided by others, by friends, by newspapers, social networks. There are special websites for price comparison. Relative to price, consumers can be characterized according to their degree of value consciousness, price consciousness and prestige sensitivity. So value conscious people, they're concerned about price and quality of product. Price conscious, they're striving to pay low prices. And prestige sensitivity people, they're drawn to products that signify prominence and status. These are the people, of course, this is a very small percentage of population, but they're proud that they have paid more, that they paid a lot for the product. And competition is another factor affecting pricing decisions. A marketer must know competitors' prices, adjust their own prices, and assess how competitors will respond. And it goes without saying that legal and regulatory factors affect pricing of the company. I have an example in the next slide about how competition can play on pricing decisions of your company. In this case, Starbucks is being implied here in McDonald's coffee advertising. So $4 is dumb. They're saying they're implying here. This is a U.S. advertising saying that $4 for a cup of espresso is stupid. Right? They're not mentioning the company by name, but people who live in the United States, they know who they're talking about, and they're saying now serving espresso. So this is a fine advertising by McDonald's. Very simplistic, minimalistic, but so very smart advertising. Let's pause it here. It will be very logical to pause it here because next we're going to talk about pricing for business markets. Thank you. I'll see you in a bit.